I grew up playing the basketball with the boys, so like it's always been physical and feisty, and like that's what it is, and you got to find a way to hold your own.
Something happened just minutes ago that nobody saw coming, and right now the entire basketball world is trying to make sense of it. Teammates are stunned, fans are in disbelief, and the biggest name in the WNBA just walked away without a single word of explanation. Whispers are already spreading in the dark. Was there a clash behind closed doors? Was there an injury nobody's talking about? Or is this something far bigger, something the league doesn't want getting out? Sophie Cunningham could barely speak. Lexi Hull's eyes welled up on camera, and the arena, once electric, suddenly felt like a morgue. What could possibly make Caitlin Clark walk away like this? Stick around, because the answers are about to change everything. At the center of this chaos sits Caitlin Clark, the rookie who flipped the entire league on its head the moment she stepped onto the court. Just days ago, she was topping the charts in points, in assists, and in headlines. This wasn't a player fighting through injury. This wasn't someone missing practice or losing her edge. This was the exact opposite. She was the reason new fans were tuning in, the reason ratings were climbing, the reason arenas were selling out night after night. And then, without warning, she was simply gone. No statement, no press conference, nothing, just silence. That silence didn't stay quiet for long. Within minutes, theories started flying everywhere. Some insiders floated the idea of load management, a phrase teams love to use when they don't want to admit something's actually wrong. Others hinted at some kind of internal discipline, but none of it added up. Clark hadn't broken any rules. She hadn't clashed with teammates. On the court and off it, she'd been nothing short of perfect. That's exactly what made her disappearance feel less like a benching and more like a punishment. And the people paying close attention could sense there was something much bigger brewing beneath the surface. That's when the real rumors started leaking out. Word began spreading about growing friction between Clark and league leadership. According to people close to internal conversations, her rapid rise wasn't just about scoring buckets. It was about her voice. Her post-game comments kept turning into viral news stories. Clips of her speaking bluntly kept circulating online. She wasn't playing the game of staying quiet and blending in, and apparently, not everyone at the top appreciated that. One rumor in particular seems to have lit the fuse. Word is Clark pushed back on the league's marketing decisions during a private meeting, calling them out of touch with the very fans they claim to represent. She didn't soften her words. She didn't back down. And according to people in that room, that honesty didn't land well. Within 48 hours, her minutes started shrinking. By hour 72, she was completely out of the rotation. And what followed was even more unsettling. No statement, no interview, no explanation. One of the brightest stars in the league simply vanished, like someone had flipped a switch. But her fans weren't going to let that happen quietly. Within hours, hashtags demanding answers were trending everywhere. Comment sections exploded with outrage. Across TikTok, Instagram, and X, thousands of voices were demanding the truth. Even NBA players jumped into the conversation, calling the league's handling of the situation shady, calculated, and disrespectful to the sport itself. Every unanswered question only deepened the suspicion, and the league's continued silence poured gasoline on the fire. This wasn't confusion anymore. This was defiance. And the mystery around Caitlin Clark kept growing, putting more and more pressure on a league that was already struggling to contain the story. The WNBA wasn't just facing a scandal. It was facing millions of eyes that refused to look away. And one question kept echoing louder than the rest. Once Sophie Cunningham decides to speak, will the league survive what comes next? The quiet that followed Clark's disappearance was heavy, almost suffocating. Then Sophie Cunningham walked straight into it and blew it wide open. Reporters had been digging for scraps of information. Fans were flooding league channels with anger. And through it all, the WNBA said absolutely nothing. Sophie broke that pattern. She didn't tiptoe around it. She didn't reach for safe, rehearsed language. She said exactly what she meant. It happened during what should have been an ordinary post-game interview. Instead of the usual polished answers, Sophie dropped a line that instantly spread across the sports world. You don't sideline your biggest star unless you're afraid of the power she holds. The room went silent the second she said it. Reporters froze. And before the league's PR team could even draft a response, that clip was already everywhere, on podcasts, on Instagram, on TikTok, on every highlight page imaginable. Fans replayed it like an anthem. Sophie wasn't finished. What started as one bold comment quickly turned into a full-blown campaign. On her own podcast, she went even further, suggesting that Clark's benching had nothing to do with basketball and everything to do with control. She accused the league of caring more about protecting its power than protecting the player who had single-handedly revived interest in the sport. She said out loud what plenty of people had only whispered behind closed doors, that Clark's punishment was a warning shot to any player who dared to speak too freely. Her words spread like fire through the league. She repeated them in team meetings, on live broadcasts, everywhere she could. She wasn't worried about losing playing time or getting fined. What actually scared her was watching the league quietly push out one of the most important players of this era. And fans responded instantly. What began as anger turned into action. Hashtags supporting Sophie and demanding Clark's return started trending side by side. A single comment had grown into a movement the league could no longer brush aside. Fans weren't just defending Clark anymore. They were rallying behind Sophie too, praising her as the one player willing to risk everything to expose what felt like a cover-up. The league never saw this coming, and it was already spreading faster than anyone could contain. This wasn't about one missing player anymore. This was about whether the entire league could be trusted. Sophie had cracked the door open, and behind it were truths that could shake the sport to its core. But what about Lexi Hull? Her silence was about to break too, and what she said next hit even harder. Sophie had already rattled the league, but the very next day, things escalated even further. Lexi Hull stepped into the fight with a different kind of intensity. She didn't post a long statement. She didn't sit down for a friendly podcast chat. She walked straight into the press room after practice, looked directly into the cameras, and said one line that hit harder than any speech could. If they can treat Caitlin Clark like this, what do you think they'll do to the rest of us? The room went cold. No spin, no softening, just brutal honesty. Reporters stopped writing. Within minutes, the clip had spread far beyond women's basketball. Sports fans everywhere started asking the same unsettling question. What exactly is happening inside the WNBA? Lexi didn't stop there. A few hours later, she posted a black and white photo of herself standing beside Clark. The caption read just one word: loyalty. That single word set off a wave of speculation. Was it a message to management? A signal to teammates staying silent under pressure? Nobody knew for sure, but the timing made it impossible to ignore. Behind the scenes, reports started surfacing. Sources claimed Lexi had become one of the loudest voices in the locker room, confronting coaching staff directly and demanding answers about why the player consistently filling arenas had suddenly disappeared from the lineup. Her teammates, according to insiders, backed her completely. What had started as locker room tension was turning into a full-blown story about a team fractured by secrecy. And it wasn't limited to her own roster. Word spread that players across multiple teams were quietly discussing their frustration with how the situation was being handled. There was pressure to stay quiet, sure, but there was also a growing hunger to finally speak up. Lexi, according to sources, was rallying a group of younger players tired of being told to smile, stay silent, and let outdated politics dictate their careers. Then came a string of emotional, cryptic posts, deleted almost as fast as they appeared. One hit especially hard. If you want to leave a legacy, stop silencing the people building it for you. Fans captured screenshots instantly. It spread across forums, edits, and threads within hours. Some believed it was aimed at league executives. Others thought it targeted media figures downplaying the situation. But everyone agreed on one thing. Lexi wasn't just reacting anymore. She was declaring war on the silence itself. With Sophie and Lexi now standing together, the league found itself facing a full-blown revolt. How far would this rebellion go before it either broke the WNBA or forced it to change forever? Keep watching, because the fans were about to take this to a whole new level. Once Sophie and Lexi broke the silence, it was like striking a match in a room already filled with gasoline. Fans didn't just react, they exploded. What began as frustration turned into a full-scale online uprising, one too loud for the league to keep ignoring. Every platform lit up at once, filled with hashtags demanding transparency and justice. These weren't random voices either. These were the same fans buying tickets, filling seats, and driving jerseys off shelves, and their message carried real weight. League social pages were flooded with angry replies on every single post. Sports forums that usually buzzed with stats and strategy turned into spaces full of suspicion and outrage. But it didn't stop at hashtags. Fans became investigators. They dug through game footage, broke down her minutes, built timelines, and exposed patterns the league refused to address. Clips surfaced showing hard fouls going uncalled. Side-by-side comparisons revealed Clark's presence quietly fading from the league's own promotional content, while other players were pushed forward instead. These clips spread like wildfire. Reddit threads dissected her playing time minute by minute. Screenshots comparing before and after went viral. This was no longer about one bench player. It had become a public trial questioning the league's credibility. Fans weren't whispering anymore, they were shouting. Why hide the very star who brought this attention in the first place? With every share, the questions grew louder, and the movement became something the league could no longer control. For almost 2 days, the league said nothing while the outrage kept building. Then, when the WNBA finally issued a statement, it somehow made things worse. The tone was cold, corporate, and completely disconnected from what fans were actually feeling. Clark wasn't even mentioned by name. The growing scandal was ignored entirely. Instead, it was reduced to a vague explanation about rotation decisions and a request to simply trust the process. The backlash was instant. Reporters tore the statement apart. Players rolled their eyes publicly. And fans took it as confirmation of exactly what they'd suspected all along. This wasn't transparency. This looked like a cover-up. Sophie responded with nothing but a single eye-roll emoji, and it exploded across social media within minutes. Lexi followed with a sharp, sarcastic remark questioning why anyone was pretending this was normal. Former players chimed in too, pointing out that you don't erase an MVP candidate for no reason. The fallout was immediate. Jersey sales dropped overnight. Ticket refund requests surged. The momentum Clark had built sold out arenas, a growing fan base, real buzz around women's basketball, started collapsing fast. And it wasn't just fans watching closely anymore. Sponsors were paying attention too, and their patience was clearly running out. Behind closed doors, at least 2 major sponsors reportedly demanded answers before continuing their partnerships. That wasn't a request, it was a warning. Years of hard-earned sponsorship deals were suddenly at risk. Still, the league doubled down, choosing more controlled messaging over honesty. But silencing one voice only created a dozen more. Locker rooms across the league turned tense, filled with whispered conversations and divided loyalties. Was it about protecting the badge or protecting the truth? In the middle of it all stood Sophie and Lexi, and their next move was even bolder. Together, they sat down for a live joint interview, and this time, they weren't just reacting, they were leading. Sophie looked straight into the camera and said, "No one is safe if this is how you treat the player who built your league." Then Lexi added, "We've been told to stay quiet for far too long. Not anymore." The clip spread instantly, praised as one of the most honest moments in league history. Other players began sharing it too, adding their own quiet support. New hashtags started trending worldwide. Fans began organizing, launching petitions, urging sponsors to stand with the players instead of the league. Former players started coming forward with their own stories of being silenced. This was no longer just about Caitlin Clark. It was about the entire system behind her. So here's the real question. Has the WNBA hit a breaking point that changes everything? Or is this only the beginning? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story pulled you in, make sure you like this video, share it with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next.